Hey, Bruce Naylor, your Boomer Consumer. This is going to be a fun video because I had the opportunity to spend a few weeks with Topping's new R2R Dac called the Centaurus. And I want to thank the good folks at APOS for loaning this to me for this review. All opinions are my own. No one's reviewed this video prior to posting. Now, this DAC is a collaboration between HOLO Audio and Topping in the design of the R2R architecture is going on inside of here, and they developed a 8-channel DAC for that takes care of high-res wireless. It takes care of DSD decoding. 4 channels is devoted to PCM. 4 channels is devoted to DSD. That's how that's kind of laid out. But it also supports Bluetooth 5.1. You get the aptX, aptX HD, aptX adaptive. You get LDAC. All the nice codecs as well as SBC and AAC. Yeah, it's a mouthful. This thing has a lot of features to unpack, and it sells for $9.99. And yes, there are definitely other R2R DACs out there in that price range as well. But I think Topping has really knocked it out of the park as far as the performance, the value, and the features that you get in the Centaurus. I mean, it's sold out. But I have a link in the description below for APOS. So you can, take advantage of getting next in line. I think the next shipments will come in on the 23rd of January. That's what I'm hearing anyway. Sells for $9.99, as I said. Let's go ahead and let's take a little bit closer look. Before we get to all the features and a tour of all the menus and so forth, I just want to talk a little bit about the unboxing experience. And I'm telling you, Topping does a really great job giving you kind of a premium Apple-esque unboxing experience. Comes in beautifully packaged, and so kudos to Topping for that. What's in the box? Well, you get the power cord, the Centaurus itself, Bluetooth antenna, the remote, a USB cable, and finally a little product card. You take a picture and it'll take you to a website. There is no included manual. You have to download that. So not a big deal, but just thought I would mention that to you. There is a lot of features to unpack on the Topping Centaurus. I'm just going to cover some of the highlights for you. And so let's get started on that. First off, you're getting a 8-channel, fully balanced R2R architecture on here. So 8 resistor networks, 4 of which are used to process DSD. The other 4 are used to process PCM, right? You get 3 sampling modes. So there's oversampling, no oversampling, and then best setting, which is what I've been using because that uses like an algorithm to determine the best oversampling and how to handle the source that's coming in. You get the Aurora interface. You can create custom parametric equalizer settings. I believe you have to use a desktop app from Topping called Topping Tune, but you can create a 10-band PEQ for the Centaurus. You get Bluetooth, which is done right? You get Bluetooth 5.1. It supports aptX, aptX HD, aptX adaptive, LDAC, and of course AAC and SBC. It uses what's called a CPLD, or complex programmable logic device, that is basically for an optimized clock that reduces the jitter on here. There's also balanced XLR outputs, as well as an I2S input, which with I2S and the USB interface both can do PCM up to, well, I should say the USB I know for sure does 768 kilohertz. So very, very nice. I think it's 32-bit. And it can work as a digital preamp as well if that's what you want to do. I've been testing it entirely in DAC mode. Now let's just go over the front controls and some of the menus. Well, you have the select button, and which is power. If you press and hold, it'll turn it off and on. You can program that to maybe change the input or change outputs or jump directly to the home screen, etc. Then you have this 2-inch color, I believe it's an OLED display, Very nice looking display. This is one of the things I love about the Topping Aurora interface. And there's 3 little touch sensitive buttons here on the side, and they're probably not going to show up on camera because this is all black. It's very dark. This is kind of a beef. I do wish that Topping had a way to illuminate those, even if it's just a minor, because in the black, literally you can't see them. But if you touch, like down here at the bottom, there you go. See, now we're just getting the information screen. Touch again. You're getting the VU meter. Touch again. And there you go. That's what you get there. When you're in the menus, so I'm going to touch here. Now I'm in the menus. You can use these buttons to scroll up and down. So rather than you looking at my hand the whole time, I'm going to use this handy-dandy remote that came with this to walk you through some of the menu settings. All right, so you're on the setup screen. If you go to your display, tap it, go back to display. There we go. You can change the theme, change the what's going to appear on the home, how bright. If you want to change the settings on the VU meter, the level meter, etc., return. So now we go to select input, squared S, Bluetooth, USB, optical, coax, which I'm using coax right now. And of course your output select, you can do RCA, XLR, or output to both. If you were using a trigger, a 12-volt trigger, you'd turn that on there. PEQ coding, let's go to that. This is where you would work with those presets that you create in Topping Tune. And I'm not sure how you import them. I'm sure you do it with the USB stick, something like that. But I did not mess with the PEQ stuff. All right, let's go return. And then we go back to advanced mode. And there we have channel balance, which is, you know, in case one channel is a little bit louder than the other, you can adjust it there. Output level, either 4-volt or 5-volt. DAC mode. I've been using this strictly in DAC mode, as I've got a very nice preamp that I'm using with it. Let's talk about oversampling. You'll see that I've got it set to best, and I've been listening to a lot of different music, and I believe that you want to leave it on the oversampling to be best. That's the best sound that I got from it. Oversampling mode 2x, I believe that was the default. I left it there, but if I change it, right, I can go 4x, 8x, 16x, 1x, etc. I'm going back to 2. IS squared phase, ISDSD channel, Bluetooth, got that enabled. I did use it with Bluetooth, connected quite nicely, and it does a great job. Unfortunately, my Android phone is pretty long in the tooth, and I'm not able to use LDAC with it. Of course, your aptX is enabled. The remote that I'm using right now is enabled. Okay, and we're going to go back to the menu, factory, your language, factory reset, and return. And that's what's on the front of the Topping Centaurus. That's your menus and your different controls. So let's take a little tour of the back. You have your XLR balanced outputs, single-ended RCA outputs. You have your I2S input, optical input, USB input, coax input. This is your Bluetooth antenna, an AES input, and finally you have your 12-volt triggers in and out, your power supply right here is where you plug into, and your off and on switch. And this is really a nicely made solid DAC in construction. So that is a tour of the back. You know, features are great on these DACs. Being R2R is great. Real question is, how does it sound? How did I test this DAC? And I am subjective reviewer, so I trust my ears. Hopefully I'm looking for the right things in the sound that the DAC produces. And to do that, I start with The headphone amplifier from Golden Wave is now Hi-Fi Man. Is called the Prelude. Wonderful headphone amplifier, which I still need to get a review out on. So I start with the Weem Pro Plus streamer. And that is, the source is off of a Plex server with ALAC files. So I ripped all my CDs to ALAC, put it on a Plex server, and then I use, lately Weem now incorporates native Plex support, but there's also Plex amp. Okay, so I'm using those to put data into the DAC. How does it sound? Let's start with the selection of music. And the first album that I grabbed was Fleetwood Mac's self-titled album, Fleetwood Mac. And I listened to Secondhand News. It's one of my favorite tracks on there. And I got to tell you, this is not really a bass-heavy song, but strong in the vocals and the higher frequencies, all right? The more treble, more mid-range. And I got to tell you, this never struggled one time. It never got tiring or fatiguing. Vocals were a little bit more warm than, say, I have a Topping D70 Pro Sabre Edition. And I definitely noticed that the vocals are a little bit more warm. I also have a Hi-Fi Man Serenade R2R Dac. And I thought the vocals were even still just a tad bit warmer on the Topping than on the Hi-Fi Man R2R Dac. There's just a right amount of punch to the vocals on this DAC. Now, but I wanted something a little bit more, I don't know, is this something more together, more going on? And I chose an album from Chet Baker called Chet Baker Sings. And the track, That Old Fear, the horns are just super lively on that track. It's just really, really good. And I made some notes here. I thought that the mids are just really lush sounding on this DAC. They're neither forward, they're not recessed, they're there and they sound fantastic. Another track that he has is called, and by the way, I highly recommend this album, I truly do. And the track called I've Never Been in Love Before. The imaging, the soundstage was right on point. Now, of course, I'm listening through headphones, right? And so everything's kind of centered with the headphones. At no point did I hear what seemed to be obviously coming from the left or right ear cups. None of that. The images was all, the soundstage was right there in the head. It is a large soundstage. It is a wide soundstage. All right. So I think it's got an airiness to it, a warmth. Some people say it's mapley, like maple syrup. I say that it's analog-ish. All right. It sounds like you're listening maybe to some vinyl once in a while. It really does. But I think when those horns kick in, you're getting this wall of sound hitting you. And I truly, truly appreciated that. Somebody else, another artist that I really, really enjoy, which is Herbie Hancock. He's just brilliant. And the album Inventions and Dimensions, the track Triangle, the piano on that, it's just amazing. It sounded really, really good. The timbre of the music was right on point. One thing that I think the British use this term a lot, PRAT, P-R-A-T, pace, rhythm, and timing. You're getting that out of this DAC. It sounded really, really, really good. And even the snares, the delicate snares, you could hear. And they were detailed, and it was lifelike. So, I mean, I think sometimes R2R DACs get a bad rap for not being, quote, as detailed as, say, Delta Sigma. But I think this just had still sounded detailed, but it just had an extra warmth to it that I really, truly enjoyed. Just to kind of wrap up the sound quality. Bass is punchy on it. It's not sloppy. It's not boomy. The mid-range is natural, but just an added bit of warmth. Treble is somewhat bright, but not fatiguing or tiring. The soundstage it produces is large and wide, and the imaging is really on point. You can literally in your head just visualize where all the performers and instruments are at. What greater compliment can I give a DAC than that? There's not. This almost has to be heard to be believed. All right, now, here comes the hits and misses, pros and cons, whatever you want to call it. And most of this is going to be pros. I love the build quality. It's good, solid metal, nice construction on here, like built like a little tank. I love the inputs and outputs that are all available on this. I love having a balanced XLR output. I like the fact that it's got a built-in power supply, so no big wall wart or anything to worry about there. The fact that it has an I2S connection, also very, very cool. The Bluetooth and the codecs on that. And I love the Aurora interface. I like whether you want to look at a VU meter or you want to just see the data on there, I love it. I think it looks fantastic. However, the couple things I wish would change. Number one, in my opinion, in this day and age, they really need to include eARC capabilities on here. That way people could use it with their television, all right? Do that. Add an HDMI eARC on there. There's no excuse for a $1,000 DAC not to have one. The other thing, and maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but the buttons, the touch buttons on the display are very hard to see. It would be super cool if Topping would do some type of gentle illumination with those buttons. All right, that would be outstanding. Other than that, there we have it. So I'm going to end this by asking the question, would I buy it? Well, I think it's a wonderful sounding DAC. I really do. And it's just loaded with all the features you could possibly want. And I compared this to the Hi-Fi Man Serenade, which is a very $1,000 piece of equipment. And I found that the Topping, as I said, was just maybe a little bit more detailed, but still had a very nice warmth to it that so many audiophiles really appreciate. They like that audiophile warmth, I guess. I'm not sure. I think for the price, there's several R2R DACs on the market that you should possibly look at. But this definitely should be right at the top of your list as one of the top contenders. So for more information, check out the link below with APOS. That's it. Bruce Naylor, the Boomer Consumer. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.